Hello everyone, I'm back with another chilling horror story. Tonight in the dark we step into a tale set in a quiet newspaper town. It's Halloween, when fear walks freely. 4 students decide to visit a notorious haunted house to enjoy the thrill. The place was once a hotspot for visitors, until something terrifying happened. One day, everyone who entered the house simply vanished. After that, the entire building was sealed off. But you know how rumors go. They didn't believe it. Laughing off the warnings, they knocked on the door and went in. Inside, the house looked ancient and worn. That's when Xiaomei recalled another disturbing legend. Long ago, a Belarusian family lived there. They ran a paper mill that made the town famous. But the family had one strange rule. Their daughter Sala was never allowed to leave the house. No photos of her were permitted anywhere. Hearing this, Xiaobai suddenly felt a chill down his spine. And before he could react, bam, a rolling pin struck him from behind. Still, they went upstairs, thinking it was all just part of the fun. Xiaomei, now a little uneasy, repeated the story. She had always wondered why no one had ever seen Bella's daughter. Driven by curiosity, some local kids once snuck into the haunted house. They claimed they heard Sala's voice, but couldn't see her because of a wall. Strangely, each time the children visited, Sala would tell them a horror story. But one day, all the kids who had listened to her vanished without a trace. The town turned on Sala, believing she was behind the disappearances. When they entered to confront her, they found something terrifying. She had already hanged herself, using her own hair. Suddenly, Xiaohei noticed deep scratches etched into a wall. Curious, he and Xiaomei pushed away a nearby cabinet, and behind it, they discovered a hidden door. They stepped inside. The air was thick with cobwebs. It seemed like a forgotten basement. But deep within, there was another door. They opened it slowly. Inside was a dusty, untouched room. Xiaomei whispered, "This must be Sala's room." Meanwhile, trying to play a prank on Xiaobai, Xiaomei hid inside a cabinet, giggling to herself. He didn't want to be hit from behind again like earlier, but when he peeked out, the room had changed. Now, there was another person in the room, and a dog. Frozen with fear, Xiaomei realized he was no longer playing. He was trapped, inside the cabinet. Xiaomei stayed completely silent, unsure what to do next. Suddenly, the cabinet door creaked open. It was Xiaobai. Xiaomei was shocked. He could clearly remember seeing someone else and a dog in the room just moments ago. Maybe this place really did have something sinister lurking. Rolling Hair, the nickname of one friend, rushed in, calling for Xiaomei to leave the room immediately. But before they could go, Xiaomei's voice called them back. She had discovered something. She told the others this room was where Sala had once been imprisoned by her own family. Sala used to tell her horror stories to the visiting children from this very spot. As they searched the room, Xiaomei found an old, dusty book. Curious, she opened it and realized it belonged to Sala. This was the very book she used to tell her chilling stories, but there was something even darker. Rumors said the stories in the book were written using children's blood. The moment Rolling Hair heard that, panic gripped her. She begged everyone to leave immediately, but before anyone could move, the door slammed shut. Terrified, they stood frozen in place. And then, a voice came from the other side. It wasn't the door that closed itself. Someone or something had done it. It turned out that it was their classmate, Huang Mao, playing a prank. Rolling Hair, the older sister, tried to calm the situation and warned him, "If you don't open the door now, I'll call the police." But instead of backing off, Huang Mao got even more excited. He suddenly kicked his sister down, then shut the door completely. It was cruel. The rest of the group stood helpless, unsure what to do. Just then, a dark shadow appeared near the door. Slowly, it opened. They didn't think too much of it. Assuming Huang Mao had finally given in, they rushed out and ran off. But just as they were about to head home, Xiaohei noticed something was wrong. His car was completely vandalized, covered in graffiti, engine torn apart. And since his house was far away, Xiaomei kindly invited him to stay at her place for the night. She had a sofa in the basement where he could sleep. But what no one knew, Xiaomei had done something in secret behind everyone's back. Xiaomei had secretly brought back the old book. Curious, she opened it, hoping to finally see what stories were inside. Strangely, most pages were blank. Only the last story had a title, and it was chilling. Huang Mao. She wiped the page with her right hand. That's when she realized it had just been written. The story told of how Huang Mao had always hated the town's straw man statue. It said that after he took the eggs that day, he never returned home. At that moment, Huang Mao had just gotten home. Since it was already late, his mother was furious. As punishment, she told him to deliver the eggs to a friend's house. Though annoyed, he eventually agreed. As he picked out the eggs, a black shadow flickered nearby. Still, he ignored it and headed out. Like always, whenever he passed the straw man, he threw punches at it. But this time things were different. After walking a short distance away, he looked back and was shocked. The straw man had appeared again, standing in the same place. He shook his head, thinking it was just his imagination, and kept walking. But when he turned back again, the straw man had vanished. Confused and dazed, Huang Mao kept walking. Suddenly, the straw man appeared again, this time much closer. At first, Huang Mao thought the straw man was just a harmless doll. But the next second, it moved. Terrified, he screamed for his mother and ran. In his panic, he tripped over a fork and fell. The straw man came closer, silently. Suddenly, it grabbed a weapon and stabbed him in the back. Wounded, Huang Mao kept running toward home, but something terrifying began to happen. Straw started growing from inside his body. The more he pulled, the faster it grew, like it was alive. The next day, his mother called the police. They searched all night but found nothing. Huang Mao had vanished. Xiaomei, realizing the book had predicted Huang Mao's death, told the others, but Xiaobai didn't believe her. He was convinced Huang Mao had just lost his mind again. To prove it, Xiaomei took Xiaohei to the cornfield. There they saw something chilling. The straw man was now wearing Huang Mao's clothes. Xiaomei froze. That's exactly what had been written in the book last night. Whether it was real or not, Xiaomei went back to the haunted house. She returned the book to where it belonged. That night, Xiaohei came to visit. But then something strange happened. He picked up the same book. Xiaomei froze. She was sure she had returned it. She asked where he found it. Xiaohei said, on Xiaomei's own bookshelf. While Xiaomei was still in shock, a name appeared on the book's page, Xiaobai. Seeing that, Xiaomei panicked. He tried to tear the pages, but the story kept appearing on the next one. This time, the story was about a toe. It said the toe had been made into a stew. Terrified, Xiaomei immediately called Xiaobai, warning him not to eat anything. But Xiaobai had already taken out a pot of stew, and without hesitation, he took a bite. Xiaohei read further. The story said, a corpse is searching for its missing toe. Xiaobai wasn't scared. He said his father used to tell this tale just to frighten children. But moments later, something strange floated out of the stew. Still unfazed, Xiaobai went closer, and without even looking, he ate it. Very soon, Xiaobai realized something was wrong. The moment he understood what he had eaten, his appetite vanished instantly. Then, footsteps, slow, heavy, drawing closer. Now he truly believed the book's story was real. Frozen in fear, he heard a voice, low and raspy. Who took my toe? Xiaobai's heart stopped. Panicking, he rushed into the house to hide. Outside the door, a corpse was approaching, one toe missing. The footsteps grew louder, closer with every breath. Xiaobai tried to leap out the window, but it wouldn't open. In desperation, he slid under the bed, curled up tightly, holding his breath. The door creaked open, but Xiaobai dared not look. Silence. Too silent. Time passed. Or maybe it didn't. He cautiously peeked out. No one. Nothing. Slowly, he pulled himself halfway out from under the bed. Relieved, he looked up, and in a heartbeat, something grabbed his leg and yanked him back. It was the corpse. Before Xiaobai could even react, the corpse dragged him straight into the wall, gone, without a trace. Moments later, Xiaomei and Xiaohei rushed in, but Xiaobai was nowhere to be found. Only one thing remained, a long, deep fingernail scratch beneath the window. The next day, Xiaomei called everyone, the roller, her sister, and told them everything. Since Li Hefan had also been to the haunted house, Xiaomei feared his name would appear in the book next. But calling the police, they'd never believe that a book could kill. To stop this nightmare, they made a decision, burn the book. But no matter how long it burned, it wouldn't turn to ash. Not even a corner. Xiaomei realized this book wasn't normal. To destroy it, they needed to understand the one who owned it. Sala. Together, they headed to the town library. After digging through old records, they found 3 chilling clues. 1. After Sala's death, the Belos family captured her nanny, Xiaolu, and her daughter, fearing they had learned black magic. 2. Exactly 1 year after Sala's hanging, every member of her family vanished. No bodies, no explanation. 3rd clue. The story of the curly-haired sister. Xiaomei began searching the book using Sala's father's name. After some digging, she uncovered a terrifying truth. All of Sala's family members were listed in the book. This meant that just like the nanny and her daughter, they too had been written into the book and mysteriously vanished. Just then, a new story suddenly appeared in the book. The title this time, The Sister with Curly Hair. Realizing the danger, everyone rushed to find her. At that moment, the curly-haired sister was getting ready for a stage performance. But right before stepping out, she noticed a pimple on her face. Worried that it might ruin her performance, she quickly went to the bathroom alone. To her horror, the pimple kept getting bigger. While she stood there, unsure what to do, a strange sound echoed from behind her. Suddenly, a single hair sprouted from the pimple. She reached out to pull it, but to her shock, the hair moved on its own. And then came the nightmare. It wasn't hair at all. Dozens of spiders began crawling out from inside the pimple. The lights flickered and went out. Just then, Xiaomei, Xiaohei, and the others arrived. What they saw made their blood run cold. The sister was completely covered in spiders. The curly-haired nanny quickly grabbed a nearby bucket. Without hesitation, she poured its contents over the sister. Moments later, the spiders vanished, but the fear in everyone's eyes said it all. The book's curse was far from over. Fortunately, the curly-haired sister wasn't taken away to the boxed meal like others before her. She was rushed to the hospital instead. Now there was only one clue left, the nanny who had once been rescued by the Belos family. Following the lead, Xiaomei and her group tracked down her last known address. When they knocked on the door, it was answered by the nanny's daughter, Xiaomei. From the looks of it, the old nanny's condition was far from stable. Xiaomei tried to bring up the mysterious book, but the moment the nanny heard the name Sarah, she began mumbling nonsense with fear in her eyes. Seeing her mother so agitated, Xiaomei quickly asked the group to leave. She needed to calm her mother down and didn't want to risk making things worse. However, just before they left, she gave them one important clue. "If you want the truth, check the hospital," she said. Her mother had once claimed that Sarah didn't die at home. She was hanged at the hospital. Determined to uncover the truth, the group rushed to the hospital. The curly-haired nanny stayed behind as lookout near the entrance, while Xiaomei and Xiaomei slipped inside and headed straight to the records archive. After a tense search through old files, they finally uncovered the truth, and what they found changed everything. It wasn't Sarah who harmed the children. She was framed. It turned out, Sarah wasn't the villain. Everything was orchestrated by her own family. Back then, the weaving factory owned by Sarah's family had a leak. The water from the factory had produced a toxic gas, and that gas was what killed the children. Sarah had tried to save them, but it was already too late. Her family, afraid of losing the factory and being blamed, framed everything on Sarah. Heartbroken, humiliated, and unable to clear her name, Sarah hanged herself in the hospital. Just as this truth came to light, the cursed book began to write again. And this time the title of the story was Curly-Haired. At that exact moment, the curly-haired nanny, who had been standing guard, suddenly heard a strange voice echoing down the hospital halls. Panicked, he decided to leave the hospital immediately. But suddenly, all the lights turned blood red, and shadowy figures appeared around him, flickering in and out of sight. Just when he was about to scream, a monster appeared directly in front of him. It had a round, pale white body, a bit plump in shape, almost cute at first glance, but the air around it was heavy and wrong. Curly-haired turned and ran in the other direction, but after only a few steps, the same monster appeared again. He tried yet another hallway, another monster, then another. The circle was closing in. The shadows were moving in sync. Curly-haired began to tremble, trapped with no way out. Finally, one of the monsters lunged forward, wrapped itself around him, and slowly melted into his body. And just like that, he vanished. A moment later, Xiaomei and Xiaohei arrived, but all they found was the round hairbrush curly-haired always carried. Xiaomei and Xiaohei suddenly realized something chilling. Curly-haired was now missing too. Before they could explain anything, the police arrived. They confiscated the mysterious book and locked both Xiaomei and Xiaohei in custody for questioning. That night, something terrifying happened at the station. A police officer noticed that the book had a new story written in it. Suspicious, he assumed Xiaomei and Xiaohei had secretly written it, as some kind of prank. But then the lights in the station suddenly went out. An eerie sound echoed down the hallway. The police chief stepped out to investigate, and then he saw her, curly-haired, her ghostly figure now fused with a giant metal tube that made strange mechanical breathing sounds. Terrified, she tried to run, but the tube let out a loud clank. Suddenly, a skull dropped from the pipe. The chief, now in full panic, raised his weapon and fired, but click, click, the gun was empty, useless. And then, more body parts began falling out of the tube. First, 2 arms, then 2 legs. Finally, an entire body emerged. Piece by horrifying piece, a new monster assembled itself right in front of them. This creature didn't speak. It just turned to the police chief and sent him straight to the boxed meal. Then, without hesitation, it headed directly toward Xiaohei. At that very moment, Xiaomei, still inside her holding cell, noticed something glinting near the desk. The key. She reached out. Xiaomei took advantage of the moment. The monster's massive body was stuck at the cell door. She and Curly-haired escaped with Xiaohei. They dashed to the parking lot. Just as they were about to start the car and flee, Xiaohei suddenly had an idea. "Xiaomei, we need to go to the haunted house. If we can tell the truth, maybe we'll break the curse." Xiaomei nodded and ran off with Curly-haired toward the haunted house. Meanwhile, Xiaohei stayed behind to buy them time. The monster had already caught up. Xiaohei jumped into the car, revved the engine, and sped off. But the monster leaped onto the roof, smashing the windshield with inhuman strength. Seeing no other option, Xiaohei slammed the brakes. The monster was thrown forward, smashing into the hood. Without hesitation, Xiaohei accelerated and drove straight into a nearby truck, pinning the monster between the 2 vehicles. It worked. For a moment. Xiaohei wasted no time and rushed toward the haunted house to meet Xiaomei. She stood inside, heart pounding, and spoke into the silence. Sarah didn't kill anyone. She was framed by her own family. But the house remained still. Just as she was beginning to lose hope, the house in front of Xiaomei began to shift. Something was different, unfamiliar, and the book, the cursed book that had followed them all along, was suddenly gone from her hands. Just then, Xiaohei rushed into the haunted house, but Xiaomei was nowhere to be seen. On the ground he spotted it, the book lying open. A chill ran down his spine. A new story had appeared. The title, Xiaomei. Before he could even react, the monster charged into the house. There was no time to think. Xiaohei ran, trapped between 2 worlds. Though Xiaomei heard the monster's terrifying roars and Xiaohei's footsteps, she couldn't see anyone. It was as if she were in a different dimension, present but invisible. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house. Xiaohei had returned. He seemed to be searching for Curly-haired. In panic, Xiaomei hid. She waited for a moment when no one was near, and crept toward the front door. But to her horror, the door was already closed. She had no choice but to rush upstairs. She slipped into a room on the 2nd floor, but the room was not empty. A man stood there staring straight at her. He screamed. Xiaomei turned toward the mirror. What she saw made her blood run cold. In the mirror she was curly-haired. No escape. If she was caught, it would be certain death. Xiaomei sprinted back downstairs. There she ran into the nanny. The nanny looked around quickly and whispered, "Hide under the table now." Xiaomei crawled beneath the table, holding her breath. Moments later, Curly-haired entered the room and asked, "Did you see her?" The nanny replied calmly, "No, no one's here." But then, the curtain fluttered. A gust of wind, a sudden motion. The curtain was yanked open. He was dragged out just like that. Finally, Xiaomei was locked in the dark basement. Not even a single light was left for him. Not long after, Curly-haired suddenly appeared in the room. As he slowly walked toward Xiaomei, Xiaomei gathered his courage and spoke the truth. "What your family did was truly wrong. These crimes were theirs to bear, not my friends. If you continue like this, how are you any different from them? Hearing those words, Curly-Haired's anger faded. He quietly took out a pen and handed it to Xiaomei. He wanted Xiaomei to help clear his name, because he didn't trust anyone else anymore. So he asked Xiaomei to write a guarantee in the book. Xiaomei didn't argue. He wrote down the entire truth in the book and promised to let everyone in town know what had really happened. At that moment, all of Curly-Haired's resentment vanished. The monster that had been chasing him disappeared too. In the end, Xiaomei kept his word. He printed the truth and posted it on every wall in town, on every street, in every corner, so no one would forget what really happened. Maybe, for Curly-Haired, this was the best ending he could ever have. If you liked this story, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.